right, good evening, and welcome to the May 3rd, 2023 Litchfield School Board meeting. We have already called the meeting to order and participated in a non-public session. We are now back in public session, and I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right. Review and revision of the agenda. Are there any revisions?
So there are a few things that have been livened up and marked in red, so you can see those throughout.
Okay. Any requests for revision from the board? Okay. Consent agenda. Everyone can see we have the COVID plan on there with numbers as well as committee reports. Is there anything that any board member would like to move into a discussion period, which will be brought down to old business?
If I may, so Peter sent an email today with his notes from the last budget committee meeting. I added a link under the budget committee report.
Yep.
So I just want to be aware, Peter, that's where it resides. It's a link in that report. And you should be able to edit that report in the future, so that would be the place to
Right,
capture
so I need to
notes.
learn how to, because I've just, the one next to the budget committee, that's still Andrew's report from last meeting, so it's in another place?
No, it's underneath Andrew's report.
If you click on it, you'll see that he has his report from the 19th. He also typed up a summary report, I think, from the 3rd. It was there. And then I added your notes.
With the blue link.
The blue link are the notes that you sent. And so it can just be added, that can become a scrolling record by adding the notes directly into that document.
Oh, okay.
And you have, let me double check.
No, it's there, I see it now.
And you are an editor, so you can edit that document.
Okay.
All right?
Thank
And
you.
Barbara added mine. I was at the Capital Improvement Plan Committee on Monday night? Monday night. Got it. I didn't know how to add it either. I just threw it in there and Barbara rejected it and fixed it.
This is organically turning into, I think, a pretty good way to do it,
Oh,
which is,
absolutely.
just one document, just adds that document, it becomes a running record, and they're all visible to anybody in the public, so I checked the links to make sure of that.
Yeah, we did have someone who indicated the budget committee link wasn't live for the public, and Barbara went in and fixed that.
She fixed it, yep.
So that is, if for whatever reason there's another link that isn't live, please let us know, and we will be sure to go in and fix it. All right, so seeing no one asking to move any of the COVID or committee reports to the discussion table of things, we'll move on to letter C, which is a summary of non-public actions from the April 5th, 2023 meeting. Ms. Ames made a motion to accept the non-public meeting minutes from April 5th. Ms. McDonald seconded the motion. The motion passed 4-0-0. Ms. Harrison had not joined the meeting remotely yet. Ms. Ames motion to approve the resignations as presented. Ms. McDonald seconded the motion. The motion passed 4-0-0. Ms. Harrison had not joined the meeting remotely yet. And the resignations included Jada Tessier from GMS, Kimberly Howe from CHS, Elin Peeland from LMS, Bob Moore from CHS, Kate Seaver from LMS. I'm going to butcher poor Virginia's last name. Regina Henninghausen. I did okay with it. GMS. Dennis Barnaby from CHS. Dana Giampaolo from CHS as a Spanish teacher. And then Jody Corbett from LMS as a grade 6 math teacher. So that is that. I guess I'm just going to take a time out and indicate that there are 4 of us here tonight. Mr. Cutter is not able to be here. He is traveling and literally on an airplane, and so is not able to attend remotely either. So it'll be the 4 of us tonight. Just want to acknowledge that. And then we'll move into the student representative report. Emma?
So next week we have our senior project evaluations. Those are going on Thursday during an early release, and then that night we have community night. Everyone come see the projects. Tomorrow SAD is doing, during advisory, a drunk driving awareness assembly for people who are going to prom. If you've noticed, there's a crash car out front of the high school to spread awareness for both drunk and distracted driving. And AP exams have been happening this week, I think into next week as well.
The one thing I will say, the bonus of having LMS and CHS share a bus route is the LMS students now go through and saw the car. And my kids came home and said, "Mom, why is there a smashed car in the parking lot?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I kind of was able to, produced an organic discussion about drunk driving, distracted driving, so.
Yeah.
There is a sign on it now.
There
It
is.
wasn't at first because of the rain, but there is.
At the
Bright
time,
orange
he's
sign.
like, "Wow, did someone get in that accident in the parking lot?" I'm like, "I hope not. That's a little too fast." Anyway, I digress. So I think that's just another positive offspin of the shared bus routes there.
Who's chatting now?
Shh. I'm only a little chatty. Presentations and recognitions. So we have Sophia Fowler, Director of Special Services, and Mary Woodman, Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, here to talk to us tonight. Is there a particular order that's better for the two of you? Or you can come up together and.
Yeah, you have class, right? Yeah, so we want to,
So we're gonna let Sophia go first, but I'll Good evening. So I brought some just additional information this evening. So the IEP numbers by school as we're approaching the end of the school year. So GMS has 86 active IEP students, LMS has 70, and CHS has 88. There are total active in the district 262. The difference between the two, so of the numbers that you add them up, of course, one doesn't equal the other. The balance is any students that are part of out-of-district placements, any students that are part of charter schools, or the parentally placed private schools that are still there, and their preschool students that are in there in that mix too.
20-ish percent.
21.7.
21%.
21.7%. Extended school year has been underway. For the planning, GMS has a coordinator hired, and we met as a team over vacation to plan for staff and rooms. And looking at that, LMS staffing is proposed based on the proposed student need. I've also been meeting with parents and staff to resolve any concerns that have been raised via email. CHS staffing is proposed based on student need. Hiring, I've been actively working through interviews and references. It's been a little labor intensive. The references aren't coming in fast and furious, so I've had to do a lot of hunting them down. But that's going well. Recently, I was able to visit Impact Academy. I'm not sure if everybody is aware of what that is, but it's a resource actually that's available to Litchfield High School students. You have to be 16 and above. There are some eligibility criteria, but I went to a recent specific presentation for Litchfield. I was able to bring Tara, our school social worker from the high school, with me. So we had a specific presentation about what Impact Academy can offer our students. Every single semester, there's actually one seat that's held for a Litchfield student. If Litchfield doesn't move a student forward to be able to attend, they open it up to general admission for the other schools in the area, because they're catchment areas. So there's like a Nashua area and a Manchester area. We belong to the Manchester area, but that works in the reverse too. So if there's another, like if we put forward 2 students and another school didn't put forth any, they open it up in that general and can oftentimes take more students coming from one area rather than another. Impact Academy is a high school program where a student can earn up to 5 credits for 14 weeks of involvement. It is through Granite State Independent Living and Vocational Rehab, but it's a resource that was that the high school was aware of at one point. It had kind of fallen by the wayside, and when I started to bring it back, I started to get a lot of interest from the case managers specifically that I was working with about moving some students forward. So that's been huge. Flyers have been circling with the case managers and such to make that a resource. English language learners for the spring. All spring testing has been completed and reported out to the state, so that's done. And I have been specifically working on one-to-one student teaching at GMS for 3 hours a day since March. There's been a high need with one student that's been there. I've been responding to parent and teacher requests to meet. There's been a lot of end of the year support that I've been able to do. I was able to meet with Mr. Hess, Ms. Nelson, and a couple of parents from the community to address a request made about an alternative diploma. So that has started, and then I've been to several recent IEP meetings. So it's been a busy spring, really. Are there any questions?
I don't know how to, I guess, there was obviously a large amount of resignations recently related to special education, positions. You indicated you're hiring. Is it looking like those positions are all going to be filled for next year? Do you have people in the pipeline for all of them, or is, half of them
Yep.
roughly?
So, for CHS, I believe we have all of them in the pipeline for CHS.
Great.
For GMS, I believe there's all of them in the pipeline for GMS. For, I think, for the ELL, that only came forward today, so
Okay.
there isn't anything in the pipeline
posted
for
yet.
that
Yeah.
specific. For the SLP position, which was a little more of a district position, we had moved a candidate forward and they had backed out, so we're back to the interview process with that one.
Okay.
And then for the school psych position, that one is still working through.
Okay.
So for a huge number of them, they're
Yeah.
in process. I just
Okay.
can't get a hold of people for references. The interviews
Yeah,
are done, I
yeah.
just, references is what's the hard part.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Did you can you explain, I don't even know how to begin to, Adventure Lore, is that still happening?
Adventure Lore is happening, it's still in the budget. It's already booked.
Okay, because I was getting information from all different directions, and I work with special ed population, and any opportunities they get over the summer are welcome.
Yep. Adventure Lore is paid for, it's even booked. I
Awesome.
even say, I don't know if it's paid for in full, I haven't touched
Yeah.
base with Lori about that, but it is booked, the dates have been booked.
Right.
Yes.
And you were able to reach out to those emails, those people who had,
Questions and
Yep.
concerns? Absolutely.
excellent.
And meet with anybody who had requested it. Any sort of meetings about those concerns, I've been meeting with them, that's part of what I've been doing.
Can you explain to me one thing, and this is just me being kind of nosy? So you have your special ed teachers, and how many psychologists are we gonna hire?
We're gonna have
One
one
who's gonna
school
do all the
psychologist.
testing
Yeah,
for
she-
special ed?
So the school psychologist, there are certain tests that only a school psychologist can do, the social emotional and the intelligence portion
Correct.
of an evaluation.
Yeah.
So in some instances, we do have it where a school psychologist also completing the academic testing helps to round out what the profile of a student and pulls it together, but it's not always necessary that the school psychologist does it. In several instances, it is helpful because they're looking across the data, like they're getting different data as they're doing the testing, but they don't have to do all the academic testing. So
The special ed teachers don't do this?
special ed teachers do,
KTEAs?
oh yeah, oh, they absolutely do the test. Yep, one of the questions that I had started answering throughout the year was making sure that the special education teachers felt trained in the evaluations that they were providing, in addition to, were there additional tools that they needed throughout, to be able to get the results that they needed or get the evaluations needed that they were done.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks for coming to see us tonight.
Just before Sophia leaves, I want to make sure, so this is relatively new. If you remember, we didn't really have our special ed director coming with reports. This is like Sophia's 5th time of being here. If there's feedback from the board on the format of written report, what is it you want to see? Like today, I heard from a board member that the numbers of IEPs, I'm like, oh, we can pull that number pretty quickly. So we put this together kind of last minute, to be honest. But whatever so this is her last presentation of this school year. She'll start back up in September. But if there's any thoughts or feedback on what you want to see, let us know that, because we're happy to provide it, happy to put it together. We just kind of need to know what it is that you're looking for.
Oh, now I have another question. Do you know what the state average of IEPs are? Since we're 21.6, like, maybe you could just shoot, I think we're probably near the state average. It just seems so much.
I can get you that number.
I'm just curious,
I think
like-
it's on the state data site, but I'd have to
So
go dig
we're
in and find it.
21.6 or whatever it was.
1.7.
1.7.
21.7, like, what's the state
So
average?
that number is only a little bit off because the 1,206 is just the enrollment from the school district. When I added in all the numbers from the
Charter schools.
charter schools
Oh, please.
and ISPs and that, so it's slightly off. I think it's probably
Yeah.
slightly less if I did just the,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
just the Litchfield school. That was just a.
So I added a line while we
Continuity.
were talking, it's 18 students who are out of district placed or in charter schools or in private. That gets you to 262. But you're right, dividing it by 1206 isn't going to include those 18. So the percentage will be,
A little bit different.
in private,
Only a hair
meaning like
different.
if they were at St. Francis, we
Francis.
have to meet their special educational needs.
Correct.
and St. Francis is one of many
Oh, I'm-
private.
yeah, I
yes,
know,
but
yeah.
for
Tabernacle
example,
and the charter
Yep.
schools and
Yep.
things like that are pulled into it too, that we're responsible for.
This was helpful. I was the one who requested it. So you can say board member, that's fine. I don't mind. It was me and I appreciate it. So, I just think in terms of transparency for the town, a lot of people, I mean, because it has to be that way, there has to be a veil of confidentiality over, special education and that's required. But these numbers are helpful in just kind of getting a picture of where they are by school, and what that looks like. So I appreciate that.
and I just want to triangulate also that if you look at Peter's notes, there were special ed questions asked at the budget committee, right? But we answered to the board.
Yeah.
To be clear, we answer to you. So if you want us to answer questions, just let us know. And if we formalize this into a formal report that we're providing to the board, that can then be shared with whomever, I mean, right now it's being shared to the entire world, right? So, not a problem, then people will have the answers. So I think the
The
board,
question was related to the costs at each school, right? Just the number and the costs, and how that changes throughout the year, or if it changes throughout the year. You know, kids come and go. They just want to have an idea going into the budget, where we sit and what we think our expectations are. Kind of like the enrollment
Yeah.
numbers,
Yeah.
projections.
the difficulty with it, Peter, is that the cost per child is going to vary by the services per child. So assigning a value to 86 kids, it's not just multiplied by a certain number. So that will present somewhat of a challenge. We could probably extract some stuff out of the budget report, so.
I know that, I think you guys have used an average, right? But if you have a population that you know is going to be there, and each kid has a different cost, figure that out.
And we always budget according to the projected cost for each student. So we don't assign an average to, we have this many special ed students, it's on average they cost this. We budget according to what services they require. So if we know that a student is gonna need transportation to an out-of-district placement, we budget for that.
Correct.
If another student just needs, speech and language pathology or OT or something like that, then we budget for those needs. So when we do the budget for special ed, it's all the current enrollment and what we think they're going to need the following.
And it's required by law that we provide these services to these
Yep.
children
Yeah.
and young adults.
So it hasn't been kind of on average, this is about what we pay this year, it'll be about the same next year. It's pretty detailed by,
And for
Per student.
situations like transportation, it depends on the number of students allowed per bus. So I think even your large buses have a cap of 55 students, or, I don't know, whatever the large bus holds. So your smaller buses also have a cap. So there's that component with some of your smaller buses too. So if a student was being picked up in town and delivered to Griffin Elementary School, and there was another family that moved into town and they needed it, you add it to the bus route, but the cost doesn't change until you kind of meet that cap of you can't have any more kids on the bus.
Okay, so I will tell you that the
So
thought of the budget committee is that there was a number, it's like $150,000 a kid.
I watched it, yeah, and I think that comes from when we are budgeting, there is always the concern of one student moving in could cost up to, depending on the services,
Or more.
150,000 or more. So that's more where the number comes into. It's not necessarily an average of what is per student, what is currently happening. It's more, if someone came in and had significant need, we would need to have money in the budget to be able to meet those needs, and that's why we ask for this. And if that student doesn't move into the district, then there may be leftover money at the end, which was part of that whole conversation. But if their student does move in, then there may not be any money left at the end, and we may be dipping into you might need to dip into the reserve fund at that point.
And 150 is sort of the out-of-district placement average. That's how that number gets tossed around, right? So we had a family who moved in several years ago. They had a child in a out-of-district placement. We were honored, we had to honor that and pick that up. And tuition at the school was $100,000 and transportation was $50,000. Using raw numbers. So that's how we got the 150. We transported the student every day up to the school. It was 40 miles one way. And in that case, it was one student on one bus that we had to send because it was the only student from Litchfield attending there. So that's how you get to that kind of cost. But if we already had a student going to that school and we're already spending $50,000 on the bus, now we're putting 2 kids on there, there's no incremental upcharge for that. The bus is already going. So, we do everything we can to try to, Sophia does everything she can to try to utilize resources that we already have in place, but sometimes it's a new placement somewhere and that's where you have to send them. But the tuition is still about $100,000 in whichever placement you're looking at. Am I summarizing that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
On average. it's
So we have
about-
18 kids that are outplaced?
Either it was out of district, there was private or charter, or there was something else.
Because we have to
So we're
service
typically-
students that go to St. Francis. If your child needed speech and went to St. Francis, we would have to send a speech person to St. Francis.
So the charter and private, you're not paying the tuition, right? Charter schools are public schools to begin with, and then private schools, the family is paying that tuition. However, we still have to send a special educator to provide the services, and depending on what the services are, we could be sending an OT, we could be sending a speech. It depends on what it is that we're sending.
Parentally placed students they work a little differently. There's a whole law surrounding parentally placed students. But we actually have the St. Francis students come to us for a portion of their special education, so they access our teachers. But because when they access our teachers, it is outside of the school day, so it is beyond teacher contract hours, so we're responsible to pay our teachers for that. But there is also in a situation where there's a speech that comes in, and speech is contracted to come in for those students. So it's really this mix, I think, is
lot
the
of
best
moving
word.
parts.
But for a public school student, a charter school is considered a public school. That looks entirely different.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Ms. Fowler? Thank you for joining
you,
us. And
Thanks,
Ms.
Sophia.
Whitman, come on down.
Thank you.
You're the next contestant. The price is
Do I win a
right.
prize?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I at least come running down?
Gotta spin the wheel first.
I am. He doesn't have to come up right away, but I am going to invite Mr. Hess to come and join me when he is ready. You have my curriculum, instruction, and assessment update. Just a little update on professional learning. Our remote PD day on March 14th was actually a huge success. I know you guys heard that from the teachers. But just looking at the products and things that came out of that, it was wonderful. A couple other updates. We are doing responsive classroom training for LMS in June during our June week of Live to Learn. And we are currently planning for our general Live to Learn programming, and I sent out a request for interest the other day, and we already have 26 staff that are signed up to come, or that are interested in coming and joining us. And one of the things that I did address on that interest survey was the funds are tight. How can we get people to come even if we can't pay what we typically pay? And I will tell you that the response has been awesome. Teachers are like, we'll be flexible. We'll, like, if you can do this, we can do this. And I'm thrilled to see the response. So grading and reporting, I just lost my computer, sorry. I know at the last board meeting, I believe Tina shared a little bit of the update from grading and reporting. That's where we are at. We have not had any meetings since then because of vacation. So perk is the big one for us right now, and I put some things under perk that aren't really perk, but they're kind of perk, so I added them in there as well. So the K through 12 social studies curriculum has been drafted, and I have brought it to the board for a first read. It came with the recommendation of PERC, and I appreciate that my PERC people are willing to work so well remotely, because sometimes that's just how we have to do it to get to the deadline. So it's a lot of pages. There's a lot of curriculum in there. I have a few small changes that I need to make to the PDFs or to the actual documents that came from PERC, but there were more spelling issues and small things, nothing major, so I did not tweak them today for the board. I am requesting that the board take action for a first read. And the other thing that I will be completely honest, came right before vacation, so you guys did not get it well in advance, and if you don't want to act on it, I completely understand, but there is a proposal to, in part because of our inability to get the half-time PE position, we have been working with Ms. Zepan to create a wellness course. And that wellness course would be a 9th grade course that is both health and PE combined. When I look at the work that she has done with the curriculum in both areas, she has a really clearly articulated plan. I'm actually excited about it. I know she is, but I think this would be a great plan for our kids moving forward.
Would this replace the 10th grade health?
It would.
Okay.
So it would be a year-long health and PE combined course for
Fantastic.
9th grade. And then your
Love it.
students would have, we've talked about a wellness 2. We'll see if we get there, but
It's a
either way-
graduation requirement.
Correct. So that would get most of the graduation requirement out of the way right off out of the gate. So, and I will say that Shannon has been phenomenal with that real application of skill, not just,
It's not sit and get.
it's not sit and get. It isn't. And she really, she hates to hear me brag about her, but she definitely is like an amazing competency-based instructor that we have. She really gets it. So, so that is the other thing that I am bringing forward, even though I apologize. I just hooked it up today. If you guys don't feel comfortable discussing that, I completely understand, but it's a little bit of a time crunch because of scheduling.
So this is something that you'd like to offer beginning
We would
next
like
year?
to offer at the beginning of next year, in part because we think it could, if we, again, and I'm gonna defer to Jake in a minute, but if we're in the staffing situation that we're in right now, we think it could help us to alleviate some of the lack of ability to offer some of the electives.
So we kind of see the changes really threefold. First and foremost, we're creating a true wellness program at the high school and not just a PE and health. So really kind of building off of supporting students in all areas 9 through 12. This move would create a little bit of a conundrum right now because we would have to really kind of, 9th graders and 10th graders would have to take this to get us caught up, which is why we're proposing with one of the resignations using that part-time FTE to add to the part-time PE to create another full-time PE teacher. Because then the third thing that could tackle is it would really open up the number of electives that we can offer to really shrink those study halls that we have.
So that would be John Vandekar.
So in the likelihood of hiring a wood shop teacher, although somebody did say they knew someone. but
Part-time.
The likelihood of a part-time
See
wood
that
shop
much-
teacher would be a challenge,
Much harder than hiring a part-time PE teacher that,
which we couldn't do. Remember, we couldn't do that
yes.
Yeah, that's been
a full year from now. We started advertising a full year ago for that, and we never got anybody. So what Jake's proposing is that we create a full-time PE position using that resource. So it's not a new position, it's just shifting the resource over. And it would allow us then to offer these courses, you have to kind of double up in the first year. And this would allow all of that to come through, and then we'll evaluate the program.
What are the concerns or downsides? I haven't heard any, so it sounds like it's supported by Ms. Zepan, it's supported by principal, it's supported by
It's
PERC.
been supported by most of PERC. Again, I threw
I
this
support
out
it.
at a very last.
I want to see
late.
smaller study halls.
Yes.
That lack of gym this year had the study halls were crazy.
And I'll be super transparent. People are concerned. I don't want to eliminate a program. I see value in our woodshop program.
Sure.
Kids take it, and it's wonderful. It's going to be very hard to staff, and we do have Alvern still. And using that CT
Right.
program, there's been preliminary conversations about not just doing construction grade, but maybe partnering up with their actual just woodworking course as well in the future. I've had some conversations with them about that. So I think that we're still going to be able to offer and support those students and really open things up for more students as well. So that was a concern of mine. We looked into how we can do that, because I don't want that to just be you're not worried about that, because we have explored that and talked about how to support students in that way.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important part of the conversation that we've been having, is you can't just cut that program out, because there are kids for whom that program is really important. So what are our options? And Alvern's been excellent with working with us to say, hey, we can take on some of your kiddos for.
So then what would the staffing look like for the whole health and PE department?
So we would have
That would be two full-time?
two full-time teachers, Shannon and a new hire, and we would be able to run that first full year of getting everything doubling up, and then if it's just one teacher, that's all Shannon can teach. There's no electives, there's no, so she's been very creative about adding some of those elective courses into the core requirements, but again, very limiting of how many kids she can impact.
Right.
This would allow this to run plus a ton of extra elective courses and offerings.
Rad classes and the
Yes.
defense classes
Yes,
for
they-
men and women.
Correct. And we do have the sign-ups in those classes right now. So we are looking at, if things stay the way they are right now, or if we choose to move forward with wellness, but not with the additional position, we are looking at running wellness, and basically that's it. Wellness and then health for the sophomores that would have missed that this
Is
year.
there still a teaching component to the athletic director? So that would still also be a part of the PE? I assume it's the PE curriculum.
Currently, that is still slated to be a 2-course. He does the strength training courses.
Right, yeah. So that would still be there as well. So there'd be the potentially two full-time PE teachers, and then the part-time athletic director who does also 2 classes. Is that right?
I have to double check the 2 classes. But yes, the AD will still
Maybe one
teach.
class. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we
It might be
we
one,
may have the flexibility to be able to cut down so that he can do more of the
but that's still the intent.
duties. Yes.
Or it might actually be more than 2. So I have
Okay.
to, whatever the number is, the AD will keep teaching what they've been teaching, past practice.
Can I make a motion to approve the hiring of a second full-time health and PE teacher?
First, we need to approve the course,
Let's
right?
pull why don't we do the
I-
course?
Okay, we'll
Then
do
we'll
the
do
course.
that.
Perfect.
As from a budgetary point of perspective, it does have some impact, wouldn't it? Because we
With
go
the
into
change
full-time to
yes,
benefits.
It's
I
benefits.
apologize. I'm like, from the curriculum? No.
Right, no, I get that.
I met with Shannon. No, there's no budgetary. Sorry.
But it would be the addition of the benefits for that, to make it a full-time
Yeah,
position.
you've got,
Potentially.
we probably budgeted the PE at like step 4-ish, because that tended to be, by the way, we were turning that position over pretty frequently. I think we had
Because it's part-time.
3 people in 5 years kind of thing, because it's part-time. The wood shop, though, is top step, because it's somebody who's been here a long time. So Doug will tell me the math isn't gonna totally come out, but, you're taking a top step and a mid-step, and if you can hire at mid-step plus the benefits, it'll come closer.
Be a lot closer.
But we're gonna have to say to Jake, you've gotta hire a person, not necessarily right out of college, but somebody newer in the career to make the numbers
That's why
work.
last year at budget time, when we talked about cutting from that line, I was against it. But yes, I'm just excited to, again, to have the opportunity to present this another option. And we've been super creative. You guys have been patient and supportive, even when we have to say no sometimes. So I just appreciate that we're able to kind of come back around and try it again in a different way.
I really like the approach of this class. It's not just, PE. And Shannon has always done a great job of integrating health and PE together, but I just think this, I don't know, I think
It's holistic.
It
It's,
is.
it's more
I-
holistic,
it
it's
is.
more whole student. I
I
like,
will tell you that
especially
Shannon is,
post-pandemic. I
and
mean, it's
Shannon
so
is
necessary.
a rock star when it comes
Yeah.
to really looking at the skill focused part of it.
Yeah.
And
but there's a whole
There-
component of mental health and
Correct.
wellness, and I think
there's
that's
so
where-
much
Use,
more to it that
reproduction,
is.
they cover everything.
We asked her on a Friday, and I think by Saturday morning, we had the outline of the.
And by
curriculum.
Sunday afternoon, I'm not kidding. I had an email that was like, "Is that enough? Because if you need me to write UBDs,
In
it's
between
gonna take a
basketball
couple
games."
days, but I'll get them done."
Yeah.
And she would have. I was like, "Shannon, take a deep breath. Like,
Yeah, I took
we're,
her.
we're good."
I took her to Bow High School with me one morning. My mentor is the principal at Bow, so she went and worked with their PE teachers on a Wednesday morning during one of their flex days, and got some ideas from there. So she did a
She's done
ton
a
of
really good
work,
job.
quickly putting this together.
And this
so.
is something that she has talked to me about pretty regularly over
Yeah.
the last couple of years. We just weren't ready to move forward with it without knowing that we would have the staffing to be able to do it.
I'm going to take a moment to just point something out. This is what nimble looks like. Do you remember the whole conversation? Mary and Jake have worked together with Shannon and have pulled this together. We have this ability to work together, collaborate, and nimbly develop something. I'm
So
just
let's approve that class.
taking that moment.
I make a motion to approve wellness, phys ed combined class for
Just wellness.
wellness for Campbell High School.
I'll second.
Are there any other questions or comments about it?
This is not something to put on a warrant for a new position.
No.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the wellness course for CHS, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes 400.
Shannon will be ecstatic to hear that. I'm just knowing that she's been sort of chomping at the bit with this for a little while.
May I have my second motion now? Or do you want to
Well,
talk
that's
some
what
more?
I think we need to figure out, do we need to do a motion for that? Because
It's the pleasure of the board. I mean, I think when we couldn't hire a fax teacher at LMS and we proposed a second Spanish position and we came and presented, I don't recall if we took a motion to vote on that. But, that was
Same
Jen's
with the set
proposal.
teacher for Griffin when that happened and we combined two part-time.
I think on some level, there's staffing decisions that we're making, and, if you were throwing your arms up saying, whoa, wait a second here, or if we were in a budget scenario where not hiring and not filling because of a budget thing, we would expect you to tell us that, but otherwise, I think we have the ability to staff the buildings as needed, and we're using the resources you've already provided, so, I don't see it as a, it's not a warrant. Back to Peter's question, I don't see it as a warrant thing because it's already a resource that taxpayers have provided to us.
It's a necessity to get 100 and something kids who weren't able to get gym this year out of a study hall and into something.
To a class.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the auditorium. So I guess it's the pleasure of the board. If someone wants to make a motion, we can certainly hear it. I think, it's up to the pleasure of the board. Don't see a need?
I don't know.
Okay.
No.
All right,
Thumbs up.
I don't want us to move past the social studies
I
curriculum,
was just gonna say.
because that's the big one. It's easy to say, that's a lot of reading, but we really
It's been
do.
pointed out to me many times in the last 2 weeks that this is 136 pages of curriculum that people had to read. I said yes, and I had to read it, proofread it, and format it. So I understand it's a lot.
But you gave us vacation week to do it.
yeah.
I did.
think
I
have
did
the
try
week.
and back
Yeah.
that up so that we.
Mary said every social studies teacher had a say. They helped develop it. That's all I needed
Yes.
to hear,
This
that
is not-
this isn't Mary pulling curriculum out and say, follow
Mary
this.
does not do that because Mary's.
way too much for
I
one
might
person.
do that with Spanish. I'm not gonna lie. Like that could happen with Spanish, but above and beyond that, it really is like the teachers have worked their butts off with this. And it might have been you, Liz, that noticed there are 2 more courses that are not included on this. We had a real end of the as we're pushing through with this, they were just not ready to go. So
What 2 courses were
the
they?
2 courses are Vietnam and World War II.
Right.
What we figured out was that World War II, when the course was approved, the first unit was done, and the course is being taught, and so it's the course is
Developing.
being developed, but it was not articulated, and I did not want to hold off another couple weeks to be able to move this
Yeah.
forward.
Mary,
So-
would you be willing to just add those 2 without links, so that we don't lose track of them? Like, put a pin
Absolutely.
on this
I
grid?
didn't want to do that because I didn't want it to look as though it was incomplete to the board,
Yep.
but I will absolutely do that.
So at some point, it'll come back to you for those approvals.
It will
but-
be in the next, I know that Dave and Noah are working on it, and I've been in contact with them back and forth a lot over vacation to try and, hey, when does, and I had to say to them, look, I don't want you to spend your vacation trying to get this done at the last minute,
So this is a first read?
First
We
read.
Bring it back again?
K through
Through 12.
12, really, with the exception of those 2 courses.
So the competencies for K through 4 are not included
So
yet.
that is correct.
They still working on
The
those?
competencies K through 4, they are working to put the competencies in more elementary friendly language.
Yeah.
I met with the middle school and talked about whether or not they want to revise the competencies. The feedback that I got across the board was no, they were
They're
fine
fine?
with what they
Okay.
were. So it really is just elementary. I did ask Dan to make those a priority. But what I would like to be able to do is to put the curriculum forward with the understanding that by the end of the year, we'll have the competencies for
Okay.
the elementary.
I'll make a motion to approve the K through 12 social studies curriculum for a first read.
A second.
Any other questions? Comments? This is a lot of work, so thank you to everyone who put the time in, you, social studies teachers, everyone, Perk, who looked at it, because it's nice knowing that it went through that process, and everyone's on board.
I didn't add that to our committee meeting because it was just reading. Reading.
I'm not gonna lie, I may have gotten
was a little
some
dry.
really not so nice emails over vacation.
Yeah,
And I totally appreciate them because
yeah.
as I sat the entire week before vacation, like format, Calibri, 10, bullets.
I asked my questions on Friday before vacation.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the K through 12 social studies curriculum for a first read, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 400.
Mary, can I just clarify, all those links are public, correct?
They should be.
So anybody watching at home who has a concern has 2 weeks, actually 3 weeks, because our next meeting is on the 24th. So you could reach out to a board member, send an email to school, if you have a concern about something missing from the curriculum or something that's in the curriculum, so.
And I will say, like, please get that to me. I do have a running list right now. Those are PDFs. I was gonna try and update all the PDFs today, and I just didn't have the time or just the time to do it. But I got a couple bits of feedback yesterday when we did an open forum about just like grammatical changes and things of that nature. So I have a list running with things like that, that those will be changed before I will actually work on that this week, so that the documents that you guys have in that forum will be updated.
Great. I see scheduling updates. Are we talking about those tonight?
Yeah, so I wanted to bring it forward to the board because it's May 3rd, and Andrea is ready to make some decisions on the back end to get stuff set up. And
Ready has to make them very
Yes.
soon.
And there aren't really
She's
material.
our power school person.
Thank you for that. There really aren't
I've heard her name
material
enough that I remember who it is.
changes here, but I want Jake to summarize, and then Mary and I can give you a quick summary on LMS. Jen couldn't make it tonight, but we have a link. So basically, we're not overhauling the schedule, but there are some tweaks and adjustments that we think are going to actually enhance student experiences. So I want Jake to start by talking about what he's thinking for Campbell. Well, and actually, Jake, if you can talk about the process you followed to get to this stage so that everybody knows.
Yes.
Here.
If it'll appear at some point.
You want me to put it up there?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can. I got it.
Yeah, that's why I shared it again with you, just to make sure that it could go up there. So I've always thought about
I don't see
schedules.
it
I read a
on
lot
there.
about schedules. What's the best schedule for learning and that sort of thing. I've spent my first 8 years as a teacher teaching 8 42-minute periods. I then went to the regional and I had 4 85-minute blocks. And now, working down here at Campbell, I've done the skinny Mondays and no skinny Mondays and that sort of thing. So I think one of the things that we were really, two of the things that we really needed to improve at Campbell are better academic supports for kids. And the work that's one of our goals is really revamping our advisory period. So what I did was I looked at, first sat down with the admin team and kind of looked at a lot of different ways that we could add a flex time into the schedule. We'd spent the fall kind of tossing some ideas around. Winter came and we kind of forgot about it. And then as we came back in the spring, I had conversations with Dr. Jetty. I worked with a lot of the teachers, our advisory committee, and basically what we came up with is eliminating skinny Mondays, just doing an alternating A and B throughout the year. And if you scroll down, I took the approved schedule for next year and just did the alternating days. So it would be laid out so you would know April 5th is this day 1 or day 2. So that's kind of all laid out at the bottom. I did black and red days 1 and day 2, whatever we decide to call them. But basically the only other change that I made in the schedule, if we go back to the top, is I added, I'm calling it right now CAT, Cougar Academic Time. It's a 35-minute block. It's right after that block 1. Our original concerns was CTE. They get back from Alvord at 9:05. They get back from Pinkerton at about 9:10. So they're still back in the building in time for this. What we want to do is on Mondays and Fridays use this time for our advisory period. And we're going to make a big shift next year and really focus on our work study practices and our core values. There's 8 of those things total. There's 10 school months of the year. I already have a plan for September. We got a plan for June. So we are going to have themed months throughout the year to really focus on that advisory, climate and culture in the building and doing that. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this is our academic intervention time. This is where we can do intervention work, retesting, makeup work, and we're going to use the scheduler built in with Power School for kids to sign up on Monday for what their week will like. Teachers can request kids that are missing assignments or struggling. We want to be able to do like a weekly rotation. So 1 week, half the staff is meeting with kids for interventions and that sort of thing. The other half of the staff has a 35-minute extra planning, whether it's PLC time, whether it's cross-content PLC time. We're kind of working out the details with that. But these 3 days really give us that academic intervention time with those. I've shared this with the staff multiple times. I have a document where everyone was required to put one comment and one suggestion in. And what I'm seeing is, love the getting rid of the Skinny Monday. 35 minutes may not be enough time. And so again, I want to hold that academic class time. This still counts as academic instructional time, but I'm trying to find that perfect balance. I know 35-minute intervention time may not be enough, but I think 35 minutes for advisory is, and sometimes maybe more. And so I don't want to have 4 different schedules. Where Monday the bell schedules, so I want to find that perfect timing where this is going to work for the week and for the year.
How are you gonna keep the kids in their classes? I challenge you to keep the kids in the classes during that time.
I can't.
And I'm not being mean
Nope.
to you.
And I'm gonna
'Cause you've
invite
seen
you.
it.
I'm gonna invite you in the fall to come during this time, and you're gonna see a different building.
We do it on Mondays.
yeah.
Like on Mondays, we do all our pre-scheduling. I take my special ed kids, maybe some regular ed kids that I think need some extra help. I schedule them to me, but I can't see kids signing themselves up. Is that
But it's the same thing. I mean,
on Monday? They'll be signing up.
they'll be signing up.
I like
but the
that.
teachers also have the ability to say, I need
It's
to see
adaptive
Heidi.
scheduler
It
through
is.
Power
We're using
School.
adaptive
So Billy wants to
scheduler.
sign up to go to art class because he knows his buddies are there, but he's failing math. Well, his math teacher already requested him.
Too
He's
bad,
not
so
able
sad.
to
That's
sign
where
up
he
for it.
needs to
So
go.
that was my question. The kids who don't need the academic support and intervention.
Learning
what are they doing?
Commons, gym, and we're going to keep the cafeteria open for second chance breakfast
it's a
as well.
30-minute
So
study
they're
hall.
going to get an extra study hall, an extra time to
That's where it's all gonna go
Have
wrong.
some-
Mark my
That's,
words.
yeah.
And that may be something that
You-
we have
you
to
know
explore
that.
doing.
So
I'm
not telling
so I'm
you
not
anything.
I'm not going to invite you to come in September. I'll invite you to come in October as we work.
Perfect.
Because here's what I've said, and this is the work that we did up north a lot. It's going to be muddy because it's new. We're
I
going,
love the
We're going to
idea. Love it.
reteach kids new expectations, new expectations for adults as well.
Yep.
We're going to reflect early and often. I know it's not going to be perfect August 28th. I know it's not.
I think
But-
the other change you're saying is that we're talking about making formatives have teeth. These kids are gonna have work to do during study hall now. They're not gonna be able to just say, I don't need to do this
But-
work.
But on the flip side of that, if my kid has a study hall, he's getting his formatives done, he's getting his homework done, he's doing well in class.
He might not have it 'cause
we're
he's gonna have
also
health.
we're also going to use that time
Yeah.
once or twice a month for clubs to meet during
That
the
was,
day.
I like
that was
that.
because
For
that's kind of
activities.
what we had discussed about best at the middle school. It's
Even
going to be an
band.
opportunity for kids who need
Band,
extra
all that other
intervention and support, but other kids could benefit from enrichment activities and
Correct.
different kinds of things.
Correct.
So I do like the addition of that too.
I mean, I want to throw like inquiries, like, hey, you want to, so and so wants to learn about this topic. We talked yesterday about, where does student voice come into this? Where can a student lead an activity during CAP for a group of kids? So again, I think this is the structure and framework. I think the details are going to come tomorrow through the summer.
Yeah.
And then in the
even in the
fall.
fall.
Yes,
They're
absolutely.
gonna come in the
Yeah.
fall.
My only concern is that, I want it to be, I can see Mondays and Fridays being super, super valuable, working on the work study habits, working on climate and culture stuff, working on the 4 C's, the core values. They're not all C's. So I would caution not watering it down with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday being, just go hang out a lot, like in the Learning Commons.
I think ultimately if we can get this going and if we can, and it's gonna take a little while.
Yep.
It really is, but this,
Writing
if
that
we
down.
can get that Cougar academic time, that Wednesday, that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, really going after getting that tier 2. Honestly,
Right.
it's completely missing at the high school. We do not have the tier 2 intervention. That is what this is.
Small groups from the counseling, mental health
If
stuff.
we can
That's all going to be
really
built in.
tap into that tier 2 intervention during this time, we are going to not see the need for
Yeah.
the credit recovery,
Yeah.
for the the summer school
Right.
outside of IEP driven summer school and things of that nature. And I think
agree,
that's
and
important.
I think that's a huge piece of improving the rigor and improving the expectations at.
But it's a cultural shift.
It's a
It is
cultural
a cultural
shift, but don't forget about the kids
Correct.
who don't need that
Correct.
extra support.
And that's
Tina,
where,
one other thing that we see, so a challenge that I've given to Jake already is reduce the overall study hall numbers.
Yes.
Okay, we have way too many kids taking a study hall.
Absolutely.
Now, they're athletes after school, they need the time during the day, they can't be doing the homework in the evening or whatever, so they're scheduling a study hall. But a 90-minute study hall is a waste, they don't need that much time. They may look at this and say, oh, I got 35 minutes now, I'm on top of all my work, and I can get my stuff done. This actually could help drive those study hall numbers down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
can
think
take
there's
another class because I don't need a 90 minutes.
I think
correct.
it's also,
Correct.
there is an opportunity there for enrichment as well. You know, when we've been focused on,
You need some extra work in your AP class. There can be an AP,
Right.
again,
A
No one
deeper
wants to
dive.
stay after
the,
school
the
anymore.
sky, I think the sky's the limit. And I know that, yeah, it could be a disaster come September 1.
Oh, and I'm not saying
no,
that at all.
But,
It's not gonna be a disaster.
right,
No.
but
You'll get it.
I'm approaching it.
clunky.
I'm approaching it in a very optimistic and realistic
Yeah.
mindset
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we're going to create a plan. We're gonna make sure everywhere has a place to be.
Yeah.
And really, this is a way for us to really support all of the kids within the building. And so I just think
Things
it's
to work through as you.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't mean
Always.
I don't mean for my concerns to be nitpicking. I just
Yeah. No, I need the nitpicking though. That's good. Like it's
You of me.
it's those things that will help us plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then still reflect in.
You've
in
already
continue to
seen what works and doesn't work. You've been in the school a bit.
I've been in a couple schools.
I'm optimistic that you can make this happen, and I think it's a great step forward.
Thank
Just
you.
verifying the staff has seen and
Correct.
this proposal, and the general feedback was loving getting rid of the skinny Mondays.
Yep.
And that the Cougar academic time,
Yep.
they want some more guidance on, but they think could be something
Yeah,
that's.
and I shared it with a group of student council juniors today.
Mm-hmm.
They were supportive. I shared a document with them that they can add feedback to, take it back, put more thoughts onto it, and then bring in their friends for conversation as well. So really getting feedback from all levels
Mm-hmm.
within the building to make sure we do this and do it well.
Okay.
sounds good.
Is this document in the agenda?
Yeah.
It
I don't-
is.
Where?
Where?
it's in my report.
In Mary's report, it says CHS scheduling, and there's a link.
Oh,
Sorry, we put
Yep.
that in last minute to
Yep.
be able to have it
yeah.
all,
I'd like to read through it too.
yeah.
Does this need approval?
So just, Jake, your classes now are 90 minutes long.
Yes.
So notice each period is 7 minutes shorter. We've done the math, it's a slight reduction in the number of hours over the course of a year. It still meets the minimum
well
standards, it exceeds the standards of the state.
Yep.
And I think that the other challenge to our staff at the high school is to better utilize the time you have.
Yep.
So, you're gonna have 7 fewer minutes, but if you're utilizing the 83 more fully and there's not that homework time at the end, et cetera, because you have this other time, right? So that's the other challenge that Jake is gonna have to stay on top of, but we've already had that conversation.
Absolutely.
And trust me, I took the calculator out, I made sure we met the standards, and everything worked out. And now it's really part of that culture shift in terms of, this is the time you've been provided, how do you prioritize and make that valuable, right? So that's a challenge to our staff.
Well, I think if it works, it's gonna help people meet the new requirements of hitting the formatives and all that. They don't have the, 90-minute class, 40 minutes, after that, the kids are like, what, butterfly?
Well, and it's
And that's the tough part. I mean, some teachers are dynamic for 90 minutes, and it varies day to day, classroom to classroom. I don't think 7 minutes less is a huge loss. I will say a few of my teachers were like, 7 minutes. So, I calmed them down. But yeah, I mean, the focus is going to be on, there's no right answer for what's the right amount of time for a class. It's what you do with it. And that's what our focus is going to be.
Nice.
I fully support it. I think it's a great way to, like you said, allow teachers more time with students.
And other staff members.
And I think it really does give us that opportunity for tier 2
Intervention.
intervention
Desperately
that we
need.
just have not been able to figure out at the high school.
Because I can tell you, I can go in, I'm doing testing during we call it WIN, during my WIN, so I blocked off it and I put one student. But I know another teacher is doing iReady testing, so she's blocked off 18 kids. It's really easy to use once you get it.
Yeah.
If I can use it, anybody can use
We've
it.
used it at the middle school for the last 2 years, and it's been really successful.
We had another program before that. It's a win-win, but you have to catch the kids that blow off class.
Yeah, absolutely.
I track them down.
I bet you do.
I do track them down.
So I think this came up a little bit when we were talking about the preschool, but is this considered a programmatic change that the board needs to vote on? I.e., when COVID hit and you guys went to a different schedule for CHS for that time period for COVID, right? Did the board vote on that at that time?
That may have been included in the overall COVID plan, the 35-page document, like, hey, here's what we're doing. So you may have voted as a result of that. To me, this isn't a programmatic change in terms of credits, curriculum.
Start time and end time are the same. We
Yeah.
made sure to do that.
To me, it's a structural prerogative of the principal. With
To
the
be clear,
board,
I'm absolutely in favor of it. I just am trying to understand, when does the board need to approve?
if it was a
changes.
credit change, if we were gonna say, and by the way, to do this, we're gonna add or subtract 2 credits from the graduation requirement, that's board prerogative. If it's curriculum, that's absolutely board
Correct.
prerogative. It's the same curriculum, just delivered in a slightly different model. So my feeling is that that's within administrative prerogative, but it's the pleasure of the board. If you made a motion, that's your decision.
I just really like coming and talking with you guys. Just keep coming back.
We
you know.
like having you.
I am gonna make a motion because I do think it's important to have the
decision.
board approval of something like this. I do think it's Skinny Monday. A lot of people, my kid hates it, so I'm,
My kid
you know,
hates it. He was
totally
born-
fine with it. But it is a change for the kids. It is a change from the week to week, and so I do feel like, you know, I fully support you bringing it forward, and I support it, but I think it's important to sort of have that board seal on it. So, are we gonna take CHS and LMS separately? I think we should.
I think we should.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the scheduling updates for 2023, 2024 for CHS.
A second.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the scheduling updates, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, passes 400. And we shall bump over to LMS.
It's exciting.
Do we need Jake for anything further?
It don't, but
Back to your
thank
kids.
you, I'm excited about this. This is a good
I had
change.
one in mind, and then I remembered it's Spirit Week, so I got one for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, Jake. All right, so bear with me here. I'm trying to get this to the properly sized. So these are Jen's, and these are what she terms minor tweaks. Okay, so let's just work our way through it. So LMS schedule for next year, you'll notice art, health, PE, and tech ed are going to go back to a quarter-based system and rotate each quarter through grades 5 through 8. That was actually a request from the teachers, so that's how they wanted to provide that going forward.
So can I just ask a question while you're going through? So does that mean every kid every year will have PE?
That is correct.
Per quarter.
For a quarter.
For a quarter,
But they'll
right,
access
but
it.
they'll have it versus right now only 5th and 7th or 6th and 8th have it.
What if they have band? Because my kid never got it when he was in the band. Well, we can figure that out later.
Well, I have that question. Band and chorus aren't included in these changes, so would that still be a daily year-long course? And would they have to give up a UA?
I believe that is the case.
That's how it's done at HMS, yeah, my school.
Okay.
And that's what was done before.
So which
Yeah,
UA
you're
would
committed to it
be?
all year.
Would it be the additional AB,
The other,
the semester?
Semester
So, I mean, that's,
it will be the
So
other
semester,
special.
so perhaps that's the answer, because
Yeah.
semester unified arts
Computer science
classes,
and general music.
and I'm assuming that means band and chorus, Mary?
Hold on, I have the actual.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you looking for this? Let me just tell you, hang on.
It's like I have it. I made Andrea share it with me yesterday. So for the Unified Arts, because there's a special, you're looking at the Master or the Unified Arts
They get
schedule.
Yep.
two unified art classes, right?
Spanish, computer science.
So looking at sure I know how to read this, sorry. It looks as though music would be, for fifth grade, music would be an AB.
Because
And
it says late
General
AB
music.
on it.
Yeah.
general music would be an AB, and library would be an AB, and then chorus would be chorus 5-6 would be a year long, and band would be a best for 5,
Okay.
which is what it is now,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. They do it once a week during best.
And so it's considered chorus 5-6, band 6 would be a year long. Spanish for sixth grade would be an AB, and
So I guess my question is, what are the kids who take band or chorus missing out on? Are they missing out on the quarter long or the 8-semester long AB UAs?
So let me
they're
try to interpret this. So
Yeah.
Carolyn is teaching fifth grade band during best block.
Yeah.
So they're missing best, right? Because they would be in
One day a
band.
week, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Carolyn is teaching sixth grade band during fifth period. And that is when PE, tech ed, health, and what's A?
So that's the top one. So the
Yeah.
quarter-long ones are the ones they would be missing out on.
Okay.
What's A? Art.
Art.
Yeah, okay, thank you, I'm like, A. So yes, they are going to miss that rotation.
Is that every year?
It's sixth grade. at
Sixth
least.
grade.
Yeah.
And then seventh graders, Carolyn is teaching band during the same rotation, HAPETE.
Okay, so
And-
those are the classes that band and chorus kids won't.
Eighth
be
grade
with
is the
us.
same
Correct.
thing, so they're gonna miss,
Art, health, PE. And
how do they get their health?
Yeah.
They can't miss
they
that.
can't miss it every year.
We'll have
They
to-
don't get 2 specials?
they do. One's the semester long and one's the quarter long.
The other thing on here is that eighth grade chorus runs at the same time as eighth grade band. So a child would have to choose one or the other. The same thing in seventh grade. In sixth
And it
grade,
looks like
So
it's
Mike, do you
same-
have that you can share, what you're looking at?
Jen handed this paper to me,
Yeah.
and so I didn't scan that.
I'm
paper,
not
sorry.
ready to, given that information, it's still a choice. It's still if I want to do band, if I want to do chorus, I don't get art, health, PE, or tech ed.
Isn't
that's
it's
always been that
currently
way.
the case?
It hasn't always, no, because they've been a semester in 1 year. So you might miss that for one semester, but you get it again.
But you never got gym.
Yeah, I remember.
But you would have had to miss something.
What?
Right.
I've experienced this with my eldest. So for sixth grade, it would have been you took band or chorus and you missed your 4 quarters. For seventh grade, you took band or chorus and you'd missed your 2 semesters.
So you always got, you got to take every single UA at least once.
At least once.
Yeah.
Between sixth, seventh, and eighth grade.
And maybe
Do we know that's not the case here?
I'm not ready. I don't understand it.
Well,
because it's hard
I
to-
know Mary and I already have a concern with the way
Like,
this is written, because like,
This-
you gotta have health.
We
You
got
can't
this. We got this
miss
yesterday.
Yeah.
I got this yesterday. I don't know
Oh, okay.
when Mike got it, but
So maybe we could get
So
what
we
you're
can-
looking at, Mike,
yeah,
and we can talk about it at
talk
the next
at our
meeting.
next meeting.
And
Is that gonna put Andrea behind with scheduling and?
if she can, so by approving the high school schedule, it will give her something that she can
Start that.
she can focus on the high school
Okay.
schedule. I know she's been waiting on the wellness and she's been waiting on the changes to their schedules, so she can focus on that while we figure
So
out.
we're gonna put
I
a
think
pin
that's
in.
typical for her too, to start with the high school and then
Yeah.
move to middle school.
Yeah,
so.
usually the middle school schedule is done over
Over
the summer.
Yeah.
Whereas the high school, we usually try and work out some of the bugs.
All right, so we're in agreement. We're gonna put a pin in this and we will table it until either Jen can be here or you guys have a little bit more of an explanation.
we'll invite Jen for the 24th if she's
Yeah.
able to make it. I think it's Dan's night. But if Jen can attend and just sort of answer
Yeah.
those questions. And I will make sure that you've got a more substantial grid.
I'm sure she's gonna watch this and wanna be like yelling at the TV and
She's
answer
probably
the
already
question.
doing that. Every time my phone buzzes, I'm looking to see if it's Jen. but it isn't.
My phone's in my bag, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's.
But I think that'll still give enough time for it to be reviewed and we can hopefully have her here to answer
Perfect.
questions. Okay, so we're gonna bump off of that. So anything else for your report, Mary?
Just to highlight the fact that we are getting into SAS time.
Sorry, what is SAS?
It's the
The
standardized.
state
Standardized
testing.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Finished
LMS is looking at, they'll be doing ELA next week and math the following week. And GMS will be doing both starting on the 15th. Jake actually leaned over and said, we had the rescheduled date for the science and I have to go back to the drawing board with it because it was falling during there was another conflict with testing. So those will be coming out and,
That's the sophomore science,
junior
junior science.
science.
LMS has already sent out the email with
Yep.
all of the testing dates on that.
Yep.
So that's-
When does the window
3
close?
and 11.
The window doesn't close
Right.
until the end of June.
Oh, okay.
So we have plenty of time. It's not a
When's
matter
the
of.
next iReady test, the spring iReady test?
Usually the iReady test in the spring we do after the SAS testing. So we do that at the beginning of June, just to I mean, I realize that's a lot of testing, but it's to check the box so that we can actually look at the growth of the kids on all 3 cycles.
Yeah. Tis the season.
All right, anything else, Mary? Any other questions, guys?
I see you have the culture and climate surveys. Do we have the results back from that?
We don't. Those, we just finished them up right before vacation. From what I understand, Mike and I were actually talking about it this morning. So we've closed out the surveys and now it's a matter of the bills are
Analyzing.
collaborating and analyzing the data to be able to get it in a form that we can use. So that's where we're at with that. And that's about it.
Any other questions for Mary?
How are you doing on with your schedule for doing the grades?
Yeah, so we haven't had any meetings since the last board meeting was the week right before vacation. So the last update that I know Tina shared with you guys is where we are, because this week we didn't have any actual committee meetings. So we are looking at, I think we are in a good place with the formative versus summative. I've been working with Andrea this week to make sure that that can be done in a way that it is still connected to the competencies and things of that nature. And then there are a few other pieces that we just need to tie up through the committee meetings in May. And we've gone through everything once with those committees, and now it's just a matter of putting some actual specific details to it. One of the things that did come up with the formative versus summative is that we really do need to be able to articulate what the expectations are in terms of, you know, formatives that are just, hey, I'm checking it off because you did it, is different than a formative that you're actually giving feedback and giving a grade on. So we are going to have to work with teachers and do some training with teachers on making sure that we have some consistent practices around that.
Is that where you have the comment, we have to, more training on what is and what is not a formative?
Correct. Correct. And we've talked about that in each of the committee meetings to make sure that I'm not off base with that.
That would be counted as a practice. Anything that gets a check mark, wouldn't that be a practice?
Right, and we can
Yeah.
still have formative grades that are just collected or not, collected or 0, as opposed to the ones that get the feedback that are going to help the kids drive their actual, that actually reflect their ability on the practice.
So help me understand what you would just get a check mark?
I completed my homework.
But we didn't look at the homework and see if the homework was correct?
Correct.
So, pardon me, why do the homework if you're not gonna grade the?
Well, sometimes we do, and that's, I
So
should
I
not.
turned in a piece of paper, okay,
Right.
if I'm, I
Yep,
say,
you
okay,
did
oh,
it.
this is Sally's paper, I
And that's
check
what
it, off we go.
but that's what we need to make sure. If a teacher is saying, I'm not actually looking at the homework right now, I'm just saying you did it, you were compliant, you get the check, it's not counting into that 15%.
So that maybe the fix is teachers grade the homework.
But you will still have teachers that do things that are just compliance based. We still do now, and they just don't count for anything. And they still won't count for anything because compliance isn't helping with
Learning.
demonstration of learning. But what we need to work with teachers on is how do we not make our homework grades be compliance grades? How do we make them into things that get feedback? And that's what
Needs
that
to be a grade.
correct.
Not
That's
just
what that.
okay,
But
training.
it's a training piece. It's still a training piece. We have teachers that have and I actually get a lot of pushback from staff when I mention this. But last year we had a teacher that gave a summative grade for signing the syllabus. There's no academic ability to having a parent sign the syllabus. That should not be reflected in a child's grade. That's you did it.
You read it.
You did it.
Sign
Good
stuff
job.
that I have to read all the time.
Yep,
It
it's
means that I read it.
collected. It's checked off, but that should not be counting in a grade. And that's what is that we still need to do some training with staff on that.
Okay. Probably.
Any other questions for Mary?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mary.
My pleasure.
We'll move into community comment on agenda items. Is there anyone in the public that's here? And I am sorry you had to wait this long.
It's only 7 o'clock.
For the first.
10.
But this was scheduled for 6, I'm
Yeah.
just pointing that out too.
Yeah.
That's right, the second one's at 8.
Name Claire Chu, Newstead Street. I haven't done this before, so I wasn't aware when you just said items on the agenda. So please shut me down if this is not appropriate.
Over here, Mark.
Yeah, gavel me down.
I'll do it.
I do have one thing that's on the agenda that you've spoken about, but I don't know if this was spoken about before I came in. And it's with regards to the board members who have said they will not sign the code of conduct yet. And I believe the meeting after the election was when I first heard. I've become a bit of a board junkie, watching every board. That they said they do not want to sign because of the part that's saying they do not support the superintendent. And I just wanted to bring up that supporting does not necessarily mean agreeing with somebody. And I would see it as the board's job and as adults who are representing us, that if you have disagreements, I would hope you go to that individual because you're not supporting them, but you are disagreeing on something, and you go in calmly with ideas on how to bring something up that you can support, that everyone can support. But this also goes along the lines of we make our student athletes sign codes of conduct. So can they now refuse to sign them? And we have who knows what going on. So that's that part. Now to something that I have heard about. What Mr. Hess brought up with the new schedule, I like it. I think you're going to have so many kids that are like, yes, no more Skinny Monday. Totally agree with you. This, I agree that I understand that the board has addressed it, but I am concerned about those kids who do not need anything on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What are they going to do? They're going to be like, great, it's a Tuesday. What am I going to do for that time? And they are going to start wondering, and they are going to get in trouble for something that they are sitting at and being bored at. That's my worry. I do, however, like the idea of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for that other group of students, because I hope and I think it is a good way to increase standards and bring a lot of students up to where they should be. So, my notes are atrocious. I do believe that was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We need your timer.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
From the public? No. Seeing none, we will close community comment. There will be a second community comment later on at 8 o'clock or when we get there on the agenda. Moving on to correspondence.
Here we go. Not a lot of correspondence. April 21st, Doug Totten answered the board's manifest questions that we had for him the night before. Doug Totten also answered the question, if we reduce the bus from 8 to 7, would reducing the bus impact students if there was an issue with another bus? And he said there would be an issue.
That was talked about at budget too. And I don't know if you had a chance to see the notes. They were asking if we had approached the bus company for a credit on, or a refund, given they're not providing us all the buses that they're contracted to do. Where they're combining bus 1 and bus 7, or bus 7
Yeah,
and
that was
bus
something like
9.
that, yeah.
We can look into that, so.
And is our agreement up with them at the end of this year?
End of
With the
next
bus
year.
company? End of next year?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe it's a credit going forward to next year.
Keep going with correspondence.
Also, on April 21st, Anastasia Brown, the Campbell High School Student Council historian, shared the student council's participation in the Manchester Food Bank at the JFK Coliseum in Manchester. It was a humbling, rewarding, and eye-opening experience. The student council is making plans to attend next April vacation and set up another date in the fall. Also, on April 21st, Carolyn Light congratulated Sarah Durfee for auditioning and making the New Hampshire Band Directors Band, and Mrs. Light attached a clip of the performance that she was in with her bandmates.
Yeah.
Jan Sullivan draft meeting minutes. Heidi Ames forwarded a summary forwarding correspondence between the Select Board, Budget Committee, and School Board chairs and vice chairs regarding meeting informally to improve communication and collaboration amongst the town boards. Suggested by Budget Chair, Mr. Sun, to meet May 18th, and a possible topic could be the budget calendar. Accepted by School Board Chair and Vice Chair, Select Board Chair, and the Select Board Vice Chair, no, the Board Chair and Vice Chair, the Budget Board and Chair. The Select Board Chair declined invitation because he was okay, they were okay with the calendar, so did not see a reason to meet. School Board Chair responded that the reason for meeting was to improve communication and bridge the gap after a few difficult years. Select Board Chair responded that it was discussed at the Select Board meeting the other night, and it was the consensus that we do not need to move forward right now. Not saying down the road, but maybe, but not now. April 26th, Jen Grantham informing the board of the community project to fix the LMS field that was vandalized. The project is set for this Friday, May 5th at 2:30. The more hands, the better. Volunteers needed and welcomed. April 28th, Ann Maratti forwarded the manifest for our review. April 30th, Elizabeth McDonald asking about the dissemination of fishing derby information, and it will be in the GMS and LMS newsletter. May 1st, Noah Benoit invited the school board to participate in the senior project evaluation process. May 3rd, Val Nelson invited the board for academic awards evening on May 22nd. That is it. I didn't check after 3. There might be more.
Nope, that's good. I think we have to have a cutoff at some point.
Yeah.
All right, moving into general business, superintendent's report.
Thank you. So the LMS sign on McElwain. So let me just show you the picture of the current sign, right?
Yeah.
So if you remember, it used to be the McElwain sign with a small little middle school on top. The town somehow must have had an old middle school sign, because they swapped that off. I'm still working with, that's better than it was.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure out how do we my vision is that it would be a blue and white sign that says middle school, and then a green and white sign that says McElwain, and it would be on that post. I know there was a member who, of the community who lives on McElwain who was concerned about blocking visibility, but it really doesn't. It's up on the top of the post. So, still working on it. I'm leaving it on here until we get this done. So, I'll keep you updated. Community forum on May 17th. So, the board members should have all received an invite to the dinner with Fred at 5. Peter, you replied that you're not able to attend.
The 17th, right, we're away.
You're away, okay. And so we're still planning that event at the high school in the library. And then the forum itself is at 6:30, and I'm gonna do a, one of those nice Canva flyers to get that out to the public so that they're aware of what's going on that night. So we continue to prepare for that.
I have gotten a couple of questions like, what's gonna happen? People want a preview, and I'm like,
I'm gonna see if I can get the slides from Fred so that we can send those out in advance,
Okay.
so that they get a preview. They can click on that and see what's gonna happen.
Awesome.
Yep. For enrollment, so the numbers are available to you in the link. You can see that at Griffin, we went up by 2 students in the month of April. At the middle school, we stayed steady at 353. At the high school, we actually declined by 4. So our overall population is 1206, which is exactly what we had in September. So all the ups and downs, we are right at 1206. A couple of things to point out down below. You can see that our kindergarten enrollment number right now is at 73. And I just want to walk the board through a few things. So I added a link in here that was provided by Joyce for the historical kindergarten number. And if you access that spreadsheet, the closest we can get to late April, early May are the dates that are provided to you. And, we've basically been in the 60s. Then we had the one large class of 80 where we upped it to the 5 kindergartens. And now we're at 70. But the other thing I want to point out to the board is if you click the other link, which is the enrollment projections and policy link, we were predicting for next year. Oh, hang on, I'm still loading here. And you got to click on the 2022 tab, make sure you're looking at the correct year. So we were predicting for next year that we would be at 71. So this number is slightly higher than that. The other thing is that a reminder that down below is a policy link. So it's on line 55 of the spreadsheet. And that links you to policy IHB, which is the board's rewritten class size policy. So our goal in kindergarten is to strive for an average of 18, but we will not exceed 19. So the trigger number ends up being 77, right? Because you do 4 times 19, and if you hit 77, it results in that. However, I want to draw your attention back to number 6, down below. No, it's not number 6. Hang on a second. There's a clause in here that you have. The type of load which will help the teacher be most effective with the children in the class. So one of the things is that we're taking a look at even 77 may not result in a trigger, depending upon how students are placed and in which classrooms they're contained. So, it's not a hard and fast rule that 77 results in adding one. What I've been told is that there's actually about a 4 student differential that you can deduct out of that. So in other words, 1 student per class. So it gives us a 4 student wiggle room. So you still can go from 75 to 77 and deduct 4 more. So you really are going to 81 before you would be considering implementing adding a 5th kindergarten. And the other piece to remember is that we don't have that position budgeted. This would involve dipping into that reserve fund that we had set up, because this truly is an unseen need if we hit that trigger number. So,
Are we,
What's the point of not to exceed?
right.
Well, didn't we talk about some students, like if there was a student in a wheelchair or something, they would take up more than
That was my
one
next
student
question.
spot.
So that's one way, is that a student's individual needs could make it so that the trigger number is lower because they're taking up more physical space in a classroom.
Yeah.
The other thing is that if you have students in a self-contained program who are not in the mainstream population, even though they're in the grade level,
They're not in the classroom.
they're not in the classroom, so then they're not taking up the space, so you can deduct that out. So it goes both ways. In some cases, you may have to lower the number because of the student makeup. In some cases, you can raise the number because they're not. That's the point that I'm trying to
So the
get
policy
to.
that we have is still about how many students in each classroom.
Correct.
Correct.
So,
It's not to
so not
exceed
to
in the
exceed
classroom.
19 in the classroom.
Right.
Is not, is that what?
That's
Are
what
we
I'm
saying the
saying.
same thing?
We're saying the same thing. And we might say this classroom with 18 is full.
Right.
Because there's a student with needs in the classroom who takes up more space, and therefore we've capped that classroom out.
Which could have come from the preschool program or kindergarten screening.
And that's where, again, Dan monitors that very
Yeah.
carefully. That's where, he's doing the actual, what we're looking at is an aggregated number.
Yeah.
He's taking that and dividing it up into spaces and making sure, and so making sure everybody's needs are able to be met. So, I'll be honest, I looked at that and I went, oh boy, that went up fast. It caused a little panic, and then he talked me a little bit off the ledge by saying, well, let's work our way through this a bit.
Okay.
So, I just don't want anybody here fixing on the number solely, because there's more to the story, and the more to the story is contained in that
Definitely
paragraph
not
number
fixing
one.
on the number, but I find it interesting that from 428 until Joyce's number on 5.3, we gained 2 more students. So it went from 73 to 75. So
And it's
now,
still only
even
May.
in early May, we are rubbing up against that number, which again isn't the only factor, but it's, if you look at the historical data, the numbers have always gone up. So between now and the school year, even that
People are
80
moving in the
year.
summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know Dan's on it, and I know Dan's watching it, and I think that's a good thing. I'm definitely pleased with that, but yeah, I had the same reaction when I saw these numbers both first and,
Well, I keep
Kindergarten.
thinking of the 200 and something housing units that are coming in the next year or 2 or 3. I know the ones at PAE are what, 172 two-bedroom rental units?
So I think two things.
Maybe
Right?
less.
Maybe
May end
less.
up being less.
Right now, we need to focus on September.
Right, I
And
know.
those developments aren't gonna, even the horse
Yeah.
farm's not gonna have anybody living in it in
Right.
September.
That's probably 2
Yeah.
years out.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, and honestly, with all the building issues that we've encountered, I
They're
mean,
gonna have them too,
we're,
you're
we're
right.
talking to the electrician who has dormitories that are built that college students can't move into because they can't get an electrical component. And he said, literally, the building's done minus an electrical component that we cannot supply. And he said the college is hopping mad because they wanna charge tuition to
I know a
get.
guy
Yeah.
who builds housing, and it's the same thing. It has to do with being able to build each individual unit and the parts made in Ukraine.
Oh, that's never coming.
He's got buildings sitting there empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna say that that's what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna say, let's not worry about it quite yet,
Yeah.
cause they're gonna take a while, and they're gonna take a while longer because of everything that people are
Yeah.
seeing, so. But you do have the money in the reserve fund if we have to pull
we
it
have to
here.
go there.
Remember, that's actually not a kindergarten fund, it's K-12, but most likely this is where we would have to dip into it, and,
Where would they go? Is there a room for them?
well, no, Dan's a little worried about that. They
Because
are-
we have 4 in that new 2 and 2, and then we have the old portable in the back that holds preschool, correct?
Correct. So what they
And the
did, I
other-
believe, last time is
But
they moved the group into the old science classroom inside the building,
Yep. Teachers will lose their teacher's lounge.
and the teachers lose any space that they have, so. It's not ideal,
No, but
but
Okay,
we'll keep on it and we'll keep monitoring it, and now that it's kind of hit it's like a slow boil here, let's keep a close eye on this as we go forward.
all right. Anything else from you for superintendent report?
Nope, I I guess that's it. Thank you.
All right, business and operations. It is the first meeting of the month, so we're gonna have an update.
No update.
Yeah,
So,
all
there we go.
right. Excellent.
Moving right along.
Oh, my goodness, I'm not gonna say a word.
Oh, something-
Why are there all these
Yeah,
blank
what
spaces in
happened?
here?
I don't
Who's
know.
been in there?
Something moved in the
Somebody
agenda.
pasted in the enrollment numbers.
That might have been me trying to open it.
It was you.
Oh, yeah, it says in the margin, Peter
yeah.
Plansky added an image. So,
I don't see it on my agenda oddly enough.
It's in green, it's lovely.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so no update. We're good to go there. We are gonna move into public minutes. Is there a motion to approve the April 19th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 19th.
I'll second.
All right, any questions or revisions or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the April 19th minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstain, all right, passes 400. Moving into new business, policy, so we are, whoa, something happened again, it
Sorry.
moved again.
I figured out how to get the thing back out of there, but now
Okay,
we're back.
dress code. First read, although we potentially could make it a final read if we chose to, correct?
I just have one comment.
You could, and I apologize again. I apparently, everybody has to be an editor in order to see the edits that are being proposed. So what we did is we saved it as a PDF, then it captures all the edits and scanned it that way. Heidi and I served on the committee along with an assistant principal from each school. We had parents and we had students. And really, I'll walk you through it quickly. So core value number 1 was an ad. This really goes back to the question of slippers, which the board heard all about. If you remember, the middle school was enforcing no slippers by saying a certain type of footwear were a slipper, and parents went crazy
But
because
it
they
was in
just
the
said,
dress code.
yeah, but they really said this isn't a slipper. If you look at it, it really
Had a
became,
rubber bottom, it had,
Uggs,
yeah, the UGG slides.
and it became,
or what, the Crocs.
what is that, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
ultimately, we said, you know what, the definition of slipper has changed over time. So what we're saying with core value 1 is it's really personal responsibility for the parent and the student. You know, if we have a fire drill in January and you are traipsing through the snow
In flip-flops.
in flip-flops,
And
that's
they
your
break.
responsibility. And if you choose to come to school with that footwear, don't tell us about, I can't go outside during a fire drill, right? Those are just the realities of it.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm doing this now with my preteen daughter, where it's like, put the jacket in your backpack, honey, because if you have to go outside, grab that jacket, grab that backpack, and make sure that you're ready. So it really is changing that value to be personal responsibility, which coming out of the pandemic makes a lot of sense, because we certainly touted that. Under clothing, under minimum requirements, the clothing must cover the entire torso, and we've added in a normal standing position. Because we were getting into, this is really about the belly connection,
Yeah.
and the kid goes to write on the board and the belly shows, and it's like, that's not normal. You know, they're not
Yeah.
doing this to show their belly off. So we're just saying in the normal standing position to clarify that. The image of the person is not on this, but it will be.
That was my one
It will be included. Notice we took the word shoes out and we turned it to footwear, because sneakers weren't shoes, so now it's footwear, okay? And we've taken out the whole piece about pajamas, bedroom shoes, or slippers shall not be worn except for school activities approved by the principal, because, first of all, pajamas didn't belong under a shoe thing to begin with, and the footwear seemed to clarify where that was gonna land. At CHS and LMS, headwear that does not cover the face or ears is permitted. That's a change.
Oh, they're wearing hats. That kills
School
me.
administrators may permit any headwear for religious, medical, or other reasons. Hoods are not permitted. CHS and LMS staff may choose to restrict headwear in their classrooms for academic reasons.
It's
So
gonna be a fight, you know.
It already was a fight, so they
So
can wear
it
hats.
needs to be global one way or the other, and I'm for no hats in school,
Yeah, so wasn't I.
as the
I
oldest person
lost.
in the room.
I lost.
And then if you look down below, so that's the head thing, the headwear piece, and then down below under additional requirements, we basically struck number 3 because number 3 was covered by the others. So we clarified that you notice number 1 says lewd conduct, and then it says obscene language or images. That took it from number 3 and brought it up. Discriminatory was already covered under number 4, or we added in down below, and vulgar was already covered in number 1. So we really condensed this from 7 items to 6 when we strike out number 3. And those are the proposed changes that we have.
Can you wear a, Joe Biden, what is it, Let's Go Brandon shirt? Because that's, because I see a lot of those in my school. I'm just curious, because it doesn't have anything to do with hate speech, it's not religious, it's nothing, it doesn't, I mean, some people would find it offensive. I'm just curious. I love hot moms, I find really
Doesn't say anything
offensive.
about political.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't say politics.
I would argue that that's First Amendment right.
Yeah,
Because anybody, I mean, I don't know if you saw the political cartoon this weekend, but, it was the donkey wearing the shirt that said, anybody but Biden, and the elephant said, anybody but Trump. And then they turned around to walk away, and it said, unless it's only Biden and Trump. Because that's the way it's going to play, right?
Yeah.
So the point being, you have the right to whatever you want to wear on this shirt. And for everybody who's got the Let's Go Brandon, there'll be something else, so.
yeah, there are some, yeah.
So having sat on the committee, I just want to say how eloquent and well-spoken the students were. There were students from each school that attended. They very much had the reasons for the changes they were requesting. They had researched it. One of the students had even recently done a persuasive argument paper on the use of hats, and wearing hats in school. And
I'd love to read that paper.
yeah, hey, it's a doozy. I'm sure it's a good one. Point being, this is something that we say all the time, and we always are soliciting. We want parent feedback. We want student feedback. We went out and we got it, and this is what the committee has agreed on. So I understand personally, you may not want to let your kid wear a hat to school, and that is absolutely a parent's prerogative to limit their child from wearing a hat to school. But in terms of
I'm not
the policy,
anti-hats, I'm anti-hats in buildings, in church, in all sorts of other places. But that's me personally, I just have to throw it out there.
yeah. So we know your boys won't be wearing hats.
But that also covers their ear pods, like their long hair.
Well, this says that their ears cannot be covered. It specifically says
That's all right, their hair does it
headwear
for
that does
them.
not cover the face or ears is permitted. And yeah, the style right now
The
is
hair,
the
the
long
boy's
hair.
hair, it's all long anyway, you can't tell.
So, I mean, again, I understand where people are coming from. Even Mrs. Thayer, who had went back to LMS and had the conversation, because it was already there that CHS, it was classroom discretion. This change is really about LMS. And
My kids
so,
can't wear it in my class.
and that teacher has, it says right here that the CHS and LMS staff can choose to restrict the headwear and therefore academics. So if there's a test and they want to make sure that the integrity of the test is preserved, they can say no hats to make sure there's no ear pods. I mean, we tried to address those concerns, so I feel like I should advocate for the committee. So that's my thought process on it. So I will be voting in favor of this. Any questions? Or comments or concerns?
Were there classroom teachers on the committee as well?
There were not classroom
No,
teachers.
but the principals were really, the assistant principals went back
We're their spokesperson. Yeah.
and got and solicited the
Yeah.
feedback, and then at the second meeting we had, came back and said, this is where we were,
Okay.
half were here, some liked it, some were a little less in favor of it, but for the most part, people were indifferent about
Yeah.
this, so they were able to.
I asked the question because I know in the past we've had, teachers have been inconsistent across the board in enforcing or not enforcing dress code policy. So
For good reason.
my thought was, where did they fall? Like on the hat issue, for example.
So we did have a CHS student who was there and asked, because again, CHS was the discretion of the classroom
Yeah.
teacher. Are there any classroom teachers that don't allow you to wear a hat? And he said, no, we're allowed to, we're not allowed to wear them. We're not allowed to wear hoods.
Yeah.
But they can wear them in the hallway and,
Hoods in the hallway?
the hat
The hat.
in the hallway.
Where's the no hood thing?
Oh,
It's
not
just that,
permitted.
it's headwear that doesn't cover the face or ears, so that's
Yeah.
what takes the hood out, unless you have a hood back here, which it really isn't a hood. You want to be able to identify a student, and
Right.
So the hood is,
And then the staff, where was it? Administrators may permit any headwear for religious, medical, so if
Absolutely.
they have to wear,
Yeah.
if they choose to wear
Yeah.
The male teachers that I know at Campbell, at any school, my school, felt very uncomfortable talking about a female student dress code. So there needs to be a protocol because it is awkward and
So there is,
Yeah.
staff will use, this is what was already in there, we didn't change any of that language, about reasonable efforts to avoid dress coding students in front of other students. Students who are suspected of a dress code violation will never be called out publicly. Instead, they will be discreetly spoken to by a staff member or referred to the appropriate office. And Mrs. Thayer and Mr. Perez said, most of the time, staff will bring the concern to them, and then they seek out and are the ones who investigate or look and
the
see.
nurse used to do it
Yeah.
before, yeah.
Rather than having a teacher be in the position of having to
It's
say,
awkward.
hey, your belly's showing.
I do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns? So this would be for a first read. The weather has cooperated with us and
so far,
has not resulted in us needing to have this just yet, but spring temps, summer temps are coming. So the question is, I guess there's a question of, do we want to have this be a final read? Do we want to wait and let Andrew come back and do a final read on the 24th? But that is pushing it because that's another 2 weeks from now with spring weather.
I wouldn't mind making a motion to approve it for first reading, and then Andrew will still have opportunity
Opportunity.
to weigh in before
Yep.
we approve it for second reading.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we reviewed this at the last meeting a little bit, right?
We
Didn't go through it?
tried, so the green language, the changes weren't on there, so we
Right.
only saw what the final version was, and we couldn't see what was changed because
And I
of
remember
that.
Andrew called that out.
Yeah,
It says nothing about length of straps, as long as there are straps, that's fine to me, yeah.
No spaghetti straps. This, I'll tell you, in my work, this is the worst policy we ever have to deal with every year, is the.
And it's
dress code
every
policy.
year.
It's awful.
it's tough.
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve it for a first reading.
I'll second. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving policy JICA and GBEBA for a first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 400.
excellent, thank you. And again, Heidi's right, the committee did a lot of work on this, and we appreciated all of that.
I think personal responsibility as far as footwear is perfect.
I agree. And again, with COVID, I think you're right.
You tell your
this is
kids to
still-
put on a coat and they don't wear a coat and it's minus
And
10
this
at the
is-
bus stop,
learn.
they'll figure it out.
I see him out there in the dead of winter wearing shorts, man, and I'm like,
Yep. So this also includes staff. Staff members are expected to model appropriate choices in appearance, so.
Correct.
this-
And that's why it's policy J,
Both
which
of
is
them.
students,
Yeah.
and G,
I
which
just
is
wanted to-
staff, so it goes into
Yeah,
both
because
parts of
that
it.
is something that we decided when we did it
first
the-
one,
on
the
first
original.
route.
Yeah.
You guys gonna wear hats?
No.
Just an update on policy. The NHSBA site is still down.
Yeah, I saw
It is
that.
still,
Update today.
being held hostage as part of this ransom.
It was a ransomware attack. So
Yeah.
the one thing that they have said to us, Heidi, is that if we email Amanda and
Yeah.
say,
We
we'd like a
want
copy
these."
of these.
Yeah.
So if you want, I can try to get the home ed and the
Yeah,
rental.
I mean, those are the only two we know, but it does prevent us from doing Andrew put together a really large spreadsheet so we could cross-check how our letters and match up, so we can try to align our policies with NHSBA so there isn't a difference between the two, and we just can't complete that
That's helpful.
without asking them to send us every policy, and we don't want
Right,
to do that.
which I don't want to do. But they keep saying it'll be there soon.
I know, well, that's why I haven't done it yet, but I
But we can
think,
at least
yeah, let's
make
get
some
those
headway.
I
two.
have the thumb drive, but that was from last year with all the policies on it.
From NHSBA?
Yes.
They sent you a thumb drive?
You gave it to me so I could
Did?
review it. Yeah, it's white. I can't find it. My house is being remodeled, but I have it. I don't know.
Sure they
other-
weren't
hang on a minute.
Litchfield policies?
Oh, maybe.
Cause I
Or-
had one.
So we all got a thumb drive
Was
with
it white?
Litchfield.
Litchfield.
Was it white and
From
red?
Michelle.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, then
Michelle
it's-
gave that to me when I went on the board.
Okay.
Okay, that was wrong.
The other policy on a white thumb drive, it's not policy, it's, the Department of Ed sends out like all the ed rules and everything. So I'm wondering if that's what I gave you, because I don't remember getting it from NHSBA, but anyway.
All right, and we're moving on to job descriptions. This was the other one that we were unable to do.
So
Because
hopefully,
we couldn't see the
hopefully
edits, but we
tonight,
see them.
Good now.
you can see pinks and
We
greens.
see all the pinks and greens,
Which
yeah.
I think is Holly and Mike making additions and subtractions to this. So basically, this is as we streamline from 2 administrative assistants to 1. And with Barbara's retirement, we're proposing to reshape that position by sort of incorporating elements of both. And so you can see the markouts and the ads.
Yep.
And we're looking to get this approved so that we can post the job, because Barbara's done on June 30th.
I'll make a motion to approve the Litchfield School District position, executive assistant to the superintendent job description.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
It's a big job.
It is a big job. I really hope we get lots of, someone who might be able to help with marketing or communication or something, you know, it's just.
Public relations.
Yeah, just to kind of take that even a step further than Michelle and Barbara have been doing it, and they've been doing great. This is not criticism of them, but just to be able to have that unified communication, but. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, all in favor of approving the executive assistant to the superintendent job description, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. We're moving on to old business. We already talked about the follow-up from the community forum when Mary was here, so we're going to go and have a conversation about bus routes.
Yeah, so we talked a couple weeks ago about going from dropping down by 1 bus. We got some more information from the bus company. And I think one thing that stood out from the bus company is that, you know, when they put a sub on a bus, it's our routes, but it's also a total of 140 routes between all of the towns that bus company supports during that time. So, you know, even though the company has, they're at about 99% of filling the full-time routes, you know, if you have a couple people out sick and you gotta cover 140 routes, it doesn't take too many people out sick before you're not covering things. So yeah, if we do drop down by a bus, they do feel like even if we had to combine buses, we'd be under the maximum, but it still would be an impact. And obviously more of an impact, because you're already impacting by dropping from 9 to 8. So, you know, we got decent, but, you know, news, but also news that could make us maybe pump the brakes a little bit on it. I don't know. I don't know where people are thinking right now.
Yeah, I think given the number of times this year that we've had to combine buses or couldn't find a sub or, you know, et cetera, bus break. We haven't had as many breakdowns recently.
Well,
because
we have the new buses finally.
Right.
We don't have the Brooklyn bus.
But that was pretty frequent, you know, in years past as well. I think if we reduce by 1, it leaves us
We have no wiggle room.
in a much tighter spot.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's, as we look at a bus driver too, when they have to call out sick or extended sick for reasons why I might not have to call out. Like if I'm on crutches, I don't have to call out sick, but they probably do,
Yeah.
you know, different reasons like that, so, yeah.
Only if it's the right foot.
Yeah, so I would not be in favor of reducing a bus at this time.
Yeah, and I have concerns. I understand the schedule that was given, in terms of timing, that wouldn't necessarily, it would add 5 or 10 minutes more, but that's a significant 5 to 10 minutes for elementary school kids who are stuck on a bus for that long. And so I think it's certainly something we should keep in our back pocket. It's certainly something we can look at when we go to renew the contract. It's certainly something we can look at as our enrollment declines, or if our enrollment declines. But I don't think I'm ready to make the move right now, or at least for the next school year.
I'm in agreement with you both.
So I don't think we need to make any motions or do anything, but that's just kind of the general consensus on it with that feedback. Anyone want to throw anything else out there? No. All right, we're moving on to school board comments. Anyone have any school board comments?
I do. I just wanted to welcome everybody back after a week's break. Those of you who, kept the home fires burning, thank you very much. And I wanted to also acknowledge that our schools will be celebrating Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week.
Yes.
I think GMS is celebrating this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure when maybe they're next week.
All three are
All
next.
three are
this
right
week.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
Ours is
Next
next week
week.
at my school, so. But thank you, and for everything thank you to all of our teachers and staff members who, day after day come in and do their best work for our students. We really appreciate everything you do for us, and we couldn't run this organization without you, so thank you.
And I think last week, during vacation week, it happened to be bus driver appreciation. So since we were just talking about our bus drivers, I think it's also important to say thank you to them for all the work they do transporting our students safely. I cannot imagine having driven a minivan with 3 kids, how driving a bus with 40 kids, you could do it, but each and every day our kids arrive safely, and we appreciate that. So thank you for all you do as well. Before the next, because we're not meeting till the 24th, and it was in the correspondence, but as a reminder, Liz and I will be meeting with Mr. Sun and Ms. Stevens from the Budget Committee on May 18th it's more of an informal meeting, just to kind of go over budget calendar, kind of start to talk about the budget process, early budget process. I think Dr. Jetty and Doug will be there as well, just to kind of have these preliminary conversations. Again, the hope being
Things run smoothly.
yeah, we want to try. I think it's not a secret, or if it is a secret, it's a very terrible one, that there have been, difficult relations between different boards, and the hope is we can start to build some bridges. It's not easy. Actions speak louder than words, and so I hope my actions reflect that this is something I'm committed to. I think
Yes.
you are as well. And so I look forward to, and when the select board is ready to meet, I hope, those meetings are also productive and we're able to have those conversations.
Can you remind us of the time?
I think it said 5:30
And it's here.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I put it on my work calendar last week, so let me.
The
just-
night
Would
after.
that be open to the public too?
It's open to the public, it's just not being recorded, so it's just, there won't be quorum from any particular board, but it's just to, again, have those conversations and just kind of, feel things out and say, my hope with these meetings is that there are going to be disagreements, right? There are going to be different opinions and disagreements, but if we can get ahead of concerns, if we know about them earlier, or they know about ours earlier, we might be able to prevent something from erupting and address it
But
more early.
Fine, you can't read tone in emails, and sometimes things that have been said have been blown out of proportion, and I would rather be face to face. And I just, so many emails.
I think for a long time, we've operated as the town and the school, and, something that I've always wanted to do is make it the town and the school. We have the same voters, we serve the same people, we're all neighbors. We're not so big of a town that we need to have different silos. I think that it's better for everybody if we're all working together.
Diane had a really good
Yep.
video. I agree with her message.
She can talk, man.
You know better than anyone, right?
It's a gift.
It was a tough,
Yeah.
Week.
Yeah, you guys have had a
Yeah.
tough time.
Yeah. And we've been on the receiving end of it as well, so I definitely sympathize with anyone from the town. Like I said, everyone's trying to do their best. I really hope we can all, assume good intentions. Assume there isn't anything evil behind it. It's maybe just a miscommunication. But time will tell, and hopefully we can make some progress on that. So, and yes, it's 5:30 here.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Just to show, when I was at the CIP meeting, and for some reason, it was after, it wasn't on the recording, I wanted to share with everybody. I was asking questions about the new construction and this and that, and I know it's a couple years away, but what Dr. Queen had told me was that they use a 0.6 ratio for students, and I forget Peter Stone's like, what's a 0.6 kid? Like, I go, you cut off their head. I don't know, but
So,
yeah, for a school average. I just thought that was interesting.
so I was asked that question. Doug and I had a brief conversation about it. But, I don't know what they're basing the 0.6 on, because if you take a look at Calawa, and I already gave the board the numbers, I mean, I think there's 56 units, and we have...
2 bedrooms.
But there are 2 bedrooms. And I think we have 7 students who are currently residing there. So that, and if you look at it across all the grades, it's had 0 impact on our class sizes, because it's, 1 first grader, second grader,
But the prefab
fifth
homes
grader.
will be 3 bedrooms, and that's a game changer.
And where are those going?
Darlene.
The horse farm.
No,
No, they're going down
Darlene.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah,
down around the
Darlene.
town. There's a trailer park there now.
yeah,
And they're
It's kind of
gonna,
behind Licks and all that.
yeah.
I
yeah.
thought someone said they were gonna be 3-bedroom prefabs.
Don't
They're big
remember.
units. 3
What?
bedrooms for a prefab is big.
Yeah, I can find out, I know.
When my
that-
parents' house burnt down, we had a 3-bedroom dropped in the yard. It was tight, but it was done.
They're gonna, but
Very energy efficient.
they're gonna be, they're gonna be very nice, and they're not gonna be cheap.
Yeah. No.
So
So-
like, even like the ones that they're gonna build over at BAE,
Yeah.
those are gonna be all 2-bedroom, and they're not gonna be cheap.
And I think that's the other
More than my
question, right?
mortgage.
Is that although currently I don't know what cheap housing is, because
There's no
There
such
isn't any.
So
thing.
on average, I guess in New Hampshire, a 2-bedroom apartment is about $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
So it's, the feeling is it's gonna be a lot of empty nesters coming to New Hampshire.
Are they going to be rentals, or are they going to be?
All rentals, for both, actually.
Really?
Are they all gonna be in Litchfield, or some will be in
There'll be
Hudson?
none in Hudson, they'll all be in
It'll all
Litchfield.
be the BAE, then the horse farm, and then the Darlene, right? So there's
Right.
3
Three
potential.
developments.
So I think what would be helpful, and maybe we need to create this, but we need like a spreadsheet
Yeah.
that keeps track of, so what is it, what's approved, how many bedrooms, and then we'll figure out what the multiplier is. Because I think 0.6, like I need to know, is that a 2-bedroom
Right.
number, or is that a 3-bedroom
I
number?
thought it was a 3-bedroom number, but don't quote me on
And the
that.
0.6 is that, you've got 2 in this one and no 0 and
Yeah.
0 kind of thing. So that's how you end up with the average of it, right? But I think as we're doing our predicting, and remember that when Keith Burke came and presented the NHSAA projections, which shows us declining down to about 1,000 students by 2030, and we all said, yeah, but the horse farm, and the this, and the that, and he said, families are smaller, empty nesters are moving in, all of that's factored into these numbers.
Empty nesters aren't moving out.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
That's really what's happening in Litchfield, is
We're staying.
we're not
Exactly.
going anywhere.
People are hanging on to their homes with a lot of empty bedrooms, or
Yeah.
guest rooms now, that they can have the
My
grandkids
house
come
is
and stay.
grandkids' rooms.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's true.
So I know we get panicked when we see, what used to be a barn torn down, and now it's an empty field, and we know there's gonna be a bunch of units plunked in there, and we're like, holy cow, what's gonna happen at GMS when we don't have room for a 5th kindergarten, right? But we have to trust those numbers, because they've factored all of that in.
Yeah.
And they've looked at, it's not
That-
just Litchfield, it's southern New
But that was my
Hampshire.
question. Southern New Hampshire is the largest growing area in New England right now. And so did those projections include developments? And
According to Keith, he said he had factored that in. They
Every
look
time you
at,
turn around, there's like some senior complex going on a side road in Derry, and all the, who has everything in storage? Every time I turn around, there's a storage unit placed somewhere.
People who moved from their 3,000 square foot house to a
To the-
two.
rental, yeah.
Crazy.
I said to Doug that, coming back from the airport the other day, we got off in Salem to get a bite to eat. And I'm like, there's a whole thing next to the mall now. Like, I couldn't believe the size of that development, and it looked like what we just experienced in Massachusetts,
It's
to
not
be
cheap
honest.
either.
And it's not cheap, and
Yeah.
again, we could double check with Salem, but I think Salem's numbers have declined. Because at one point, every school district in southern New Hampshire, other than Windham was growing for some reason, but the others were not, so.
Okay, sorry.
But we should keep talking about it, and I think what I need, because I'm not following the planning board, I don't know what's being proposed, but maybe if we have a spreadsheet and we can share it, what do you know? Let's tweak it, how many units are there, how many bedrooms, so that we
Well,
can,
that could be a good conversation that
With the
we
selectmen.
have when we have that meeting, because Kate Stevens, who is on the budget committee, is also on the planning board. And
Perfect.
so we might be able
Let-
to have that
Yeah.
conversation organically with her and pick her brain in terms of,
and let's add that to the agenda for that day or a
Yeah.
need, because to me, that spreadsheet benefits everybody. That's
Yeah,
not just a
definitely.
school board spreadsheet. Our need is gonna be the number of students, but other
Yeah.
people are gonna look at other
It's gonna
revenue.
impact the town budget
Yeah.
more, I think that's gonna
Services,
impact it,
yeah.
because, you know, all of a sudden you're gonna have, especially if it's older folks at
Yeah.
both places, is more
yeah,
slip and falls, or.
yeah, more service calls.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know yet, have we received any reports on, with the new budget, any changes to our adequacy aid? I know some towns were getting more, some towns were getting less.
That was a question I saw. I
Somebody
haven't seen an
posted some on
answer, yeah.
Facebook today
That's-
that
yeah,
Merrimack
that's what
is getting like an
reminded
extra
me.
$800 a kid or something.
Yeah.
We haven't
That's in
received
Merrimack.
anything about that, have we?
I mean, all schools receive something in the fall for a projection of it. I don't know of any newer information that came out.
Okay.
Apparently there was some
This was-
$3
This was
million.
based off of the House
pushed
budget
into
that
the-
just passed, and so there
I
was,
think it just
yeah.
happened today.
Yeah, this week. So it's still relatively new, but maybe we can follow up on that
Yeah.
before the meeting on the 24th. My last school board comment that I forgot to mention before was I think May 1st was an important day for our seniors, as it's a commitment day in terms of where they're going to school. So congratulations to all the students that are committed to going to school, as
Or
well
should
as the
be.
students who are not committed, and that's okay too. And but I just think it's important to mention, I mean, that's a big decision where you're gonna go to school, and
I drove mine down on Friday and I said to Michael, here's your $750 sweatshirt they gave me, because that's the down payment on his school.
But
And they
yeah,
will
I
be
mean-
having the signs out again. In case you didn't, remember the signs they put up? I love
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of parents breathing in paper bags, trying to understand the cost of everything that's going on. And so, again, another exciting thing that's going on in the community, so.
Keeping track.
Okay, so that's that.
Before we move off, remember I paused when you asked if I had something else? This is what it is. Just a reminder to the board, an email went out to the community that we are taking a look at all our student safety stuff this month.
Yep.
So the Alice drill protocols and so forth. So people should anticipate that there will be a drill. It'll be conducted age appropriately. It's not gonna be a scary event. At this point in time, we've done Alice now for 4+ years, so people are familiar with it. But there is going to be a drill coming up. And then at the end of the drill, we'll notify everybody that we conducted drills today, and there'll be some reminder tips for parents to discuss those with their children at home that evening. So if you drive by a school and, you see some activity there, it's just a drill. It's nothing to panic over.
Well, someone had asked if we do these drills only at the end of the year or once a year, but we do Alice drills, and we do a variety of drills throughout the year.
So we do, and it's interesting because Alice keeps changing their training protocol for staff. So we couldn't even get our staff refreshed on Alice until March, or was it
Oh, really?
earlier?
February, maybe?
February. So that sort of had us hold off
Yeah.
because we have new staff members. Now, we can still say, this is what you need to know, because you could have any event that occurs at any time. But in an ideal world, we would be doing it sooner.
Okay, thank you for
You're welcome.
clarifying that.
Manifest. Do we have 3 signatures?
Yes. On the ones I got.
This is last week's, I think we
That's
just need
last
to
week,
say.
and those have 3?
Yes.
Okay, were there any questions that were not answered yet?
Oh,
All right, we will open it back up to community input. Here comes Claire, 5 minutes early.
Okay, Claire Chu, Newstead Street again. Still there. So I'll start with a negative, but I'll finish with a positive. As I said, I've become a bit of a board junkie. time watching, planning, budget, selectmen, and I want to say my consensus, I'm just the one I know, thank you for being the most positive and keeping your comments positive. There we go. But my fun thing is I would like to thank, just in case anyone who's listening is from Eversource, because I was invigilating a math test today, a math summative, and the noise outside from the helicopters, because I was on the back end of LMS, the noise up and down with the helicopter.
And the guys hanging from the
Until
trapezes.
I took pictures and I had kids come and look at this, I don't care, and they see him hanging. What's going on?
It's amazing
They
to watch.
loved it. It would have been better if there wasn't so many leaves on the trees. Spring, but
Hanging from the trapeze, going from, there were three
He
on
was
a
dropping
line
them
once. It was
off.
amazing.
They're gonna be
And go
doing that
off.
all summer too. because
It's
they're doing
mesmerizing.
The thing off by
It
the
was.
golf course.
Oh,
all the way
glad you
through.
used that as a teaching moment. Good job.
oh yeah, and what are you doing? What are they doing? I said, this is a job you could have. How fun would that be? How fun would that be? And they're
It would
like,
totally be
I like when they kind of drop down and it looks like they drop them on the ground and all of a sudden they come back.
Whip
up.
them back up.
well, when they
No thanks. I was
were
putting
taking
gas
them
in my
off,
car and I'm like, what the?
They were going
and we were
back.
talking
windy.
physics. We were talking,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say that we get notices from Eversource that this is going on, but it'll say something like, we're working on Terminal 9 T37, and I'm just like, where is that?
Yeah.
If it said right behind the middle school,
Yeah.
I would feel so much
We were
better.
reading it for like 20 minutes, like, we kept passing it back and forth, like, what?
They
I don't know
started,
where they're working
they
this
started
summer.
on Natticook and then they must be going up the line. It's pretty cool to watch.
All right, so we are going to move into non-public session, which at this point is for, A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted, B, the hiring of any person as a public employee, and C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. So for the public's awareness, we already had one non-public session, which related to A and B, which was the dismissal and then the hiring. And then we will be finishing up our non-public with issues of C. So that'll be what we're heading into. So I just wanted to be clear on the reasons we're in non-public. Is there a motion to go into non-public?
So made.
All right.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, 4-0-0. Thank you for watching, either tonight or whenever it is that you are watching. And our next meeting is a change in the schedule. Our normal routine, it is May 24th. We would like to remind people to come to the community forum on May 17th as well. And then hopefully there'll be a flyer or more information about that coming out shortly. That's it. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thanks for coming, Claire.